This woman came to England and gave birth to a baby no one knew about and then took its life. Hi there, stranger. Today I'm going to be telling you about the case of Jia Jin Teo. This is an awful case, and all of the information that I'm sharing comes straight from the judge's sentencing remarks. Jia Jin Teo was born in Malaysia and she grew up there. She was the youngest of four siblings, and her parents worked really hard to afford them the best opportunities they could. In 2023, she was 21 years old and studying at the Malaysia University of Technology. The course that she was on offered the opportunity to participate in a student exchange program. Gia would come to Coventry University in the UK, the programme starting in January 2024. She had a history of depression, but she was clearly ambitious. This was a really good opportunity for her and one that she wanted. So in December that year, she purchased a return ticket and she was due to return to Malaysia in May 2024. But there was a catch. Gia was pregnant. She had become pregnant in June 2023 by her boyfriend of 3 years, but she had told no one. She must have known considering the changes to her body, but she was in denial. She wore baggy clothes to hide her growing bump, and by the time she arrived in the UK on the 9th of January 2024, she was 7 months gone. She arrived at Coventry University and she made some new friends, a few of whom spoke her native language, but she still told no one that she was pregnant, and the university also did not know. She did not go to the doctors or seek any medical help or attention, and she also made no plans for her baby's arrival, even though she must have known that it was inevitable. Gia just got on with things, but by March, the baby's arrival was imminent and contractions started on the 3rd of March. Gia told her friends that she was unwell with heavy period pains. And the next morning, she gave birth to her baby on the bathroom floor of her student accommodation alone. And this must have been a harrowing experience to do it alone with no medical intervention and not even a friend to hold your hand. I would pity her, but for what she did next. The birth itself was traumatic and not straightforward. Gia suffered a significant amount of blood loss, and then after giving birth, she also suffered an acute stress reaction. The baby, however, was fine. She was full term and healthy. But Gia was determined that that would not remain the case. Gia herself was very unwell. As I said, she lost a lot of blood, and so she texted her friend Eve asking if she could bring her some medication to replenish blood. And she sent Eve a selfie just over an hour later, still lying that her condition was caused by a very heavy period. Eve saw how unwell Gia looked and reacted as any friend would. She had no reason to disbelieve her friend, and so by 2 in the afternoon, she brought Gia some soup to her room. Gia took the soup, but she would not let her friends in her room, and so they left the soup with Gia, and Eve returned a little later on with some more food. She was told to go away, but she was really worried about Gia, and so she got into her room. Immediately, she was met with the sight of blood everywhere, but Gia had locked herself in the bathroom. At this point, the baby was still alive and well. Gia had turned the bathroom taps on to cover the baby's cries, and she shouted at Eve to leave and to leave her alone. She was crying, distressed, and she sounded terrible. And Eve was so worried that she went straight to reception and informed them of the situation. And the lady from reception went straight to Gia's room. She saw what Eve had seen and she called an ambulance. Gia was still refusing any help. She refused to go to hospital and was just trying to keep everyone away from her. Paramedics arrived at around 3:45, but still Gia refused to leave the bathroom. She refused any medical help and told them to go away. She was insistent that she wouldn't go to the hospital and that she didn't want any help, and so the paramedics left. They cannot force care on people. This was not their fault or responsibility. Gia still had not been able to clean up. She was very poorly and weak, but if she had opened the door to that bathroom, everyone would have seen the baby, and then she would not have been able to carry out her plan. But once the paramedics and ambulance left, she could, and that was when she took the life of her own baby girl. She put her baby in a cereal box and then sealed that cereal box inside a plastic bag, the kind that have the ziplock on the top, making them airtight. And Gia sealed the bag completely, and then she put that bag inside her own suitcase. And she knew that by sealing that bag, the baby could not survive. The baby did not live even a full day, not even half a day, but she could have. She could have survived and been adopted by a loving family. She could have had her own life. It's chilling to the core, a totally heartless and cruel thing to do. Slow suffocation in the dark, alone and unloved. After committing this heinous act, Gia tried to clean up the bathroom, which of course was also covered in blood. She was offered a new room by the university and transferred there later that evening. And by then, she was prepared to go to hospital and receive treatment. She must have known that she needed it. Gia was admitted to hospital that same night, but doctors couldn't make any sense of what she was telling them. Finally, on the 6th of March, after a physical examination, doctors realised that Gia had given birth and police were called to the hospital. Gia finally admitted that she had had a baby and she told police where they could find her. It was, of course, far too late for the baby, who had unsurprisingly passed from asphyxiation. When it came around to court proceedings, Gia's defence argued that she had not planned to take the life of the baby, that she had acted out of desperation. The judge disagreed. Of course, the judge disagreed. It was obvious by Gia's conduct and decisions, and by the fact that she had told nobody, not a single soul, that she was pregnant. She must have had this planned for weeks, if not months. And so, at the age of 22, Gia Jin Teo was sentenced to life with a minimum term of 17 years. She was supposed to be here for 5 months and now won't be released from prison until she is at least 39 years of age. Sure, what a heart-wrenching case. This one really made me sick. Please, stranger, as ever, let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think of that sentence? Is 17 years appropriate? Rest in peace to that poor little angel. She was only 4 or 5 hours old, and the entirety of her life was spent in a blood-soaked bathroom. And I personally don't care how scared or desperate Gia was. How that baby's life ended is just heartbreaking and atrocious.